Astra Station hung like a jewel in the endless blackness of space. Its domed corridors glimmered with lights that reflected on the metal floors, giving it a warm, welcoming glow. Ships from different star systems came and went, each carrying creatures of various shapes, sizes, and colors. Despite the diversity, one place in the station remained quietly popular, known not for its luxury or size, but for its comfort and charm. A small cafe named Star Corner. Inside the cafe, a young human woman named Lena moved gracefully between tables. She carried a tray with steaming drinks, smiling at every customer, her brown hair tied in a simple braid. Her uniform was plain, but her energy made the place shine. Most of the station's visitors were busy with their own matters, but Lena had a way of making even the busiest creature pause and feel welcomed. "Here you go, Mr. Lorne," Lena said, placing a steaming cup of violet-hued tea in front of a tall, silver-scaled alien. "And extra sweet, just as you like." "Thank you, young human," the alien said with a bow. "Your service is always excellent." Lena smiled. "It's my pleasure. Enjoy your tea." The cafe was calm, filled with soft chatter and the gentle hum of machinery outside. But that calm was about to change. A low rumble echoed through the station corridors, growing louder with each step. The doors of Star Corner slid open, and the chatter of patrons stopped abruptly. All eyes turned to the entrance. A towering figure entered. The scales along his arms shimmered with colors no human eye could describe, a mix of emerald, gold, and deep crimson. His eyes were sharp, like molten amber, and his presence commanded attention. Around him floated a small dragonling, no bigger than a large cat, its tiny wings beating rapidly in panic. The Dragon Emperor, Kale Thor, rarely appeared outside his palace. His reputation alone was enough to silence entire halls. Even in a place as busy as Astra Station, the Emperor's presence was felt before he spoke. And now, he had entered a small cafe, carrying his small child in a cradle of his powerful arms. The Dragonling, later identified as Ari, let out a sharp, piercing cry that cut through the cafe's soft hum. The sound was not loud in a human sense, but it carried a strange vibration that made glass cups tremble slightly on their trays. The Emperor's expression was calm, but his shoulders tensed. His deep voice rumbled, though quiet enough that only those close could hear. "Silence him," Kale Thor commanded, though there was no anger in the words, only concern. Several staff members froze. No one dared step forward. The Emperor had a temper, and disobeying him, even with good intentions, could be dangerous. But Lena, noticing the small dragon's distress, moved forward slowly. Her heart ached at the little creature's cries. Ori's wings flapped nervously, tiny claws scratching the Emperor's robes. "Excuse me, sir," Lena said softly, raising her hand to show she meant no harm. "I think I can help him, if you let me." A hush fell over the cafe. Patrons exchanged nervous glances. The idea that a human waitress could calm the Dragon Emperor's child seemed absurd. Kale Thor looked down at her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a voice that seemed to vibrate the floor slightly, he said, "You may try, but be careful." Lena nodded and took a step closer to Ori. She crouched slightly, keeping her movements slow and gentle. The Dragonling's eyes, glowing faintly gold, darted around the room in fear. Its tiny body shivered. "Hello, little one," Lena whispered. "I won't hurt you. I just want to help you feel safe." She paused, thinking quickly. On Earth, where she grew up, babies often cried when scared. Her mother would sing to them, soft songs filled with care and warmth. The thought struck her. Could this work with a dragon? She had never tried, but she had nothing to lose. Lena closed her eyes and began to sing. The song was soft, a lullaby from her childhood, simple and gentle. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but the tone carried a calm warmth that filled the room. The dragonling froze mid-cry. Its ears twitched, and the wings slowed. Kael'thor's golden eyes narrowed as he observed. The sound was different, unfamiliar, yet not threatening. Slowly, Ari's cries softened into whimpers. Its large, round eyes blinked at Lena as if studying her. Lena kept her voice steady, lowering herself so her face was level with the dragonling's. She extended her hand gently. Ori inched forward cautiously, until finally it nestled against her arm. Its breathing slowed. The Emperor's shoulders relaxed slightly, though his face remained stoic. For the first time that day, the cafe was completely silent. Not a sound from any patron, not a machine, not even the hum of the lights. All eyes were on the human girl and the tiny dragon she held. "You have calmed him," Kael'thor said, voice deep and thoughtful. "How?" Lena swallowed. "On Earth, music. It helps young ones feel safe. I thought maybe it could help him too." The Emperor studied her. Most humans were loud, reckless, or afraid. This one was neither. Her hands were steady, her voice soft but confident. And she had done what his most trusted caretakers could not. "I see," he said, his tone quiet, almost reflective. "Your species is strange, weak in appearance yet bold in action." Lena blinked but remained polite. "I just wanted to help him feel safe. That's all." Kael'thor's gaze shifted to Auri, who had now fallen into a light, peaceful sleep against Lena's arm. The dragonling's tail twitched occasionally, but it was calm. For the Emperor, such trust from his child was rare, and it stirred something in him that he had not felt for centuries. "Bring him to me," he finally said, and Lena nodded. Carefully, she handed Auri back to the Emperor, who cradled the dragonling close, still looking at Lena with an expression that was unreadable. The patrons and staff, still frozen in awe, slowly began to whisper among themselves. Stories of the Emperor's fearsome power were well known, yet here was a human who had earned his quiet respect in moments. Kael'thor turned and, for the first time that day, spoke to the cafe staff without a commanding tone. "Leave us be for a while. This child needs rest." The staff obeyed immediately. They left the cafe, giving the Emperor and Lena space. The Emperor set Auri down gently in a small corner he had prepared in the cafe, an area with soft cushions and calming lights. The dragonling looked back at Lena, letting out a soft purr of contentment. Kael'thor finally spoke again. "You have a strange talent. Few humans can command the attention of even a dragonling without fear." Lena smiled softly, a little embarrassed. "I only wanted to help. I never thought it would work." Kael'thor nodded slowly. "Your species is full of surprises." He paused, then added quietly, almost to himself, "I may have underestimated you." For Lena, every word was astonishing. The Dragon Emperor had spoken to her directly, not as a servant, but as an observer, curious, respectful, and strangely gentle. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Lena stayed near Auri, humming softly to keep the dragonling calm. Kael'thor watched silently, seated in a corner of the cafe, his eyes never leaving her. As the sun from the nearby star pierced the glass dome of Astra Station, Lena finished her shift. She wiped her hands, feeling tired but happy. She had done something she had never imagined possible. She had calmed a dragonling in front of the Dragon Emperor himself. Kael'thor finally stood. His large, scaled form cast shadows across the cafe. He approached Lena. "You have a calm heart. That is rare in your kind," he said, voice low and steady. "I would like to observe this quality further." Lena blinked, unsure what he meant. The Emperor continued, "Do not be afraid. I will not harm you, but I wish to understand humans better. Perhaps you can help me." For Lena, the words were both thrilling and terrifying. A dragon emperor taking interest in her, it was something she could never have dreamed of. Ori let out a soft chirp, as if agreeing. Lena smiled and nodded. "I will help however I can." Kael'thor's eyes softened slightly. "Then let this meeting mark a beginning. Perhaps humans and dragons can learn from one another after all." And with that, the Dragon Emperor and his child left the cafe. But Lena knew this was not the last time she would see them. The connection she had made with a crying Dragonling had opened a door to something much larger, the chance to show the Emperor the strength and warmth of humanity. Outside the cafe, Astra Station's corridors resumed their usual activity, but inside, Lena felt a small spark of destiny ignite in her heart. The Emperor had observed her, and something in his heart had shifted. For the first time, Lena understood that sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness could reach across worlds, calming a Dragonling, and perhaps even touching an Emperor. The next morning, Astra Station seemed unusually bright to Lena. The sun's rays pierced the station's domed roof, casting a golden glow across the polished floors. Lena arrived at Star Corner earlier than usual, preparing tables and arranging pastries for the incoming customers. Despite the usual busy hum of the station, Lena could not stop thinking about the Dragon Emperor Kael'thor and his small Dragonling, Ori. She had expected that their visit yesterday might be a one-time event, a strange interruption in the quiet rhythm of her cafe. But as she served the first customers of the day, a familiar rumble echoed through the corridors. Her heart skipped a beat. The cafe doors opened with a soft hiss, and in came the Dragon Emperor himself, Kael'thor, with Ori nestled carefully in his arms. The small Dragonling's golden eyes widened at the sight of Lena, and it made a soft, chirping sound. Lena smiled gently, waving to the child. "Good morning, little one," she said softly. "Did you sleep well?" Ori tilted its head and let out a tiny purr. Kael'thor set the Dragonling down in the corner of the cafe, where Lena had already prepared a cozy little nest of cushions. The Dragonling crawled forward cautiously, its tiny claws barely making a sound on the polished floor. Kael'thor watched silently, his amber eyes sharp but thoughtful. Lena approached slowly, keeping her movements calm and non-threatening. "Hello, Ori," she whispered. "Would you like me to sing to you again?" The Dragonling blinked and made a small, chirping sound that sounded almost like a yes. Lena smiled and began her gentle lullaby. Her voice filled the quiet cafe, soft and soothing, wrapping around Ori like a warm blanket. Kael'thor's eyes narrowed slightly as he studied her. The sound was alien to his ears, yet it had a calm strength to it. Ori's wings stopped fluttering, its breathing slowed, and for the first time since the Emperor's arrival, the child seemed completely at ease. "You humans have strange methods," Kael'thor said, his voice low and curious. "You rely on words and sounds to influence feelings. On our world, we rely on presence, strength, and instinct." Lena kept her gaze on Ori. "Music can carry feelings," she said softly. "Even if it's simple, it can calm the mind and heart. That's what I learned on Earth. Maybe it works for dragons, too." Kael'thor inclined his head slightly. "It seems it does. Your species is unpredictable." The Emperor stayed in the cafe longer than Lena expected. He observed quietly, asking few questions but listening carefully. He watched the interactions between humans and aliens, noting how they treated one another with kindness or hesitation. Kael'thor's gaze often returned to Lena, curious and almost thoughtful. Over the next several days, Kael'thor began visiting the cafe more frequently. Sometimes he would arrive alone. Other times, Auri accompanied him. Each time, Lena greeted the Dragonling with warmth, humming soft tunes or telling gentle stories about Earth and humanity. Auri began to anticipate Lena's presence. Whenever she entered the cafe, the small Dragonling's wings twitched in excitement, and it made tiny chirping noises. On one particular day, Lena noticed Auri trying to mimic the way she hummed. It was a faint, almost squeaky sound, but the effort was endearing. Lena laughed softly. "You're learning fast," she said. "Soon you might be able to sing your own songs." Kael'thor observed silently from a table across the room. He had never imagined that a human could connect with his child in this way. Dragons were creatures of instinct, powerful and proud, and yet here was a human, so small, so fragile by comparison, commanding attention through care and calmness alone. One day, as Lena sang to Auri, Kael'thor asked her quietly, "Tell me, why do humans show so much courage without force? You do not have claws or scales, yet you influence even a Dragonling." Lena paused, thinking carefully. "I think it's because humans need to survive together. We care for each other. Strength isn't always in power or fear. Sometimes strength is in patience, kindness, and hope. Those are things even a dragon can feel." The Emperor was silent for a long time. Auri snuggled against Lena, closing its eyes, completely calm. For Kael'thor, this scene, this fragile human holding his powerful child with nothing but song and gentle words, was unfamiliar. And yet he felt something stir within him. "Perhaps we have underestimated your kind," he said at last. "Perhaps humans possess a strength we have never noticed." Lena smiled softly, a mixture of pride and humility. "We're not perfect, but we try. And sometimes that's enough to make a difference." As days passed, Kael'thor began asking more questions about human life. He inquired about families, traditions, and celebrations. He wanted to understand how humans built trust, how they expressed care, and how they solved conflicts without violence. Lena answered patiently, sharing stories of Earth and other human colonies across space. She told him about human children learning to work together, humans traveling across planets to help each other, and communities coming together to face challenges. Her words were simple, yet they carried depth, sincerity, and warmth. Kael'thor listened, intrigued. "Your species relies on emotions in ways we do not," he said one evening. "It is fascinating, weak in appearance, yet full of surprising power." Lena laughed softly. "It's not magic," she said. "It's just people caring, and sometimes caring is stronger than strength or fire." Kael'thor's gaze softened slightly, though he would not have admitted it aloud. The Emperor began to see humans differently, not as weak or insignificant, but as creatures capable of courage, patience, and love. Auri grew more attached to Lena with each visit. Soon the Dragonling refused to sleep unless she hummed or sang softly nearby. Even Kael'thor, who had always relied on instinct and discipline, began to admire Lena's quiet influence. Other patrons noticed the unusual bond forming between the human and the Dragonling. Whispers spread through the cafe. "The Emperor trusts her, and the Dragonling loves her." Lena paid little attention, focusing instead on the child before her. One day, as Lena sang softly, Kael'thor asked a question that caught her by surprise. "Do humans fear dragons?" Lena stopped for a moment, thinking carefully. "Some might, yes, but fear isn't always bad. It can teach respect and caution, but love is stronger than fear. That's why even if someone is afraid, if they care enough, they can still help." The Emperor considered her words. He had ruled many worlds, dealt with enemies, and commanded loyalty through fear and respect. but the idea that care, patience, and song could achieve what armies could not, it intrigued him. Days turned into weeks. Thor began to trust Lena more openly. He spoke in quiet tones about his thoughts, about his concerns for Auri, and even about his own childhood as a Dragonling. Lena listened carefully, never judging, always responding with understanding and warmth. One afternoon, a particularly large group of patrons crowded the cafe. Lena was busy serving drinks, her hands moving quickly but gracefully. Ori, curious and playful, wandered among the tables, causing smiles and laughter from visitors. Thor observed quietly from a corner, impressed by Lena's composure. Even in the midst of chaos, she remained calm, patient, and kind. The Emperor realized that this was another form of strength, one humans possessed naturally. Later, as the cafe emptied, Thor approached Lena quietly. "You have taught me something," he said softly. "Strength is not only in force, fire, or scales. It is in courage, patience, and heart. Your species carries it naturally." Lena felt a warmth rise in her chest. "I just do what I can," she said softly. "It's what anyone would do for a child, or someone in need." Thor nodded, his gaze distant as he watched Auri play with a small trinket Lena had given him. The Dragonling's golden eyes sparkled with joy, and Thor felt a rare sensation, a sense of peace and understanding. For the first time in centuries, the Emperor allowed himself to feel something he had long ignored: admiration, respect, and a hint of something warmer: trust. The bond between Lena and Auri continued to grow, and through it, Thor began to see humanity in a new light. Not as weak creatures, but as beings capable of courage, care, and emotional strength that could reach across worlds, even to a Dragon Emperor's heart. By the end of the week, the Emperor began to linger longer in the cafe. He no longer came solely for Auri's comfort, but to observe and learn from Lena. He realized that humans, despite their fragility, possessed qualities dragons could not fully understand. Through simple songs, quiet words, and acts of care, Lena had revealed the hidden strength of her species, and Thor, the mighty Dragon Emperor, was beginning to understand that the universe had far more to teach him than he had ever imagined. Auri chirped softly, looking at Lena with bright eyes. The small Dragonling's trust had become complete, and the Emperor felt a stirring in his heart that had long been buried under centuries of duty, command, and pride. The quiet human song had reached not only a Dragonling's ears, but also the heart of a Dragon Emperor. And in that moment, Thor knew that something remarkable had begun, a connection that could change how dragons and humans understood each other forever. The days at Star Corner had grown brighter and more lively, yet Lena sensed a subtle change in the air. The cafe had become popular not just for its warm drinks or fresh pastries, but for its unusual visitors. Patrons often whispered, glancing toward the corner where Auri, the tiny Dragonling, slept or played beside Lena. The Dragon Emperor. Thor had begun visiting daily, sometimes bringing Auri, sometimes arriving alone. Lena had grown accustomed to his presence, yet she never stopped being aware of the immense power he carried. Even when silent, his mere aura demanded respect, and Lena treated him with calm politeness, never fear. Ori, however, was the most delighted of all. The small Dragonling chirped and fluttered around Lena whenever she hummed or sang. It had become so attached to her that even Thor noticed its reluctance to leave her side. This bond warmed the Emperor's heart in ways he could not fully explain. One quiet afternoon, Lena was arranging a tray of pastries when she noticed a group of alien figures observing the cafe from a distance. Their expressions were not friendly. Some wore frowns, others scowled with suspicion. Lena paused for a moment, feeling a subtle unease. Kyle Thor, seated nearby, also noticed the group and narrowed his eyes. "These visitors," he said quietly, his deep voice carrying a note of concern, "do not look here with goodwill." Lena nodded. "Do you mean they might cause trouble?" Kyle Thor's eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail. "Perhaps. They do not trust humans or small creatures such as your Dragonling. Some believe strength comes only from power and fear. They will see kindness as weakness." The group did not approach immediately, but Lena's instincts told her that trouble might come. She took a deep breath, calming herself and Auri, who had begun to sense her tension. "Then we will stay calm," she said softly. "Ori trusts me, and I will protect him." Kyle Thor studied her. Her courage was quiet, subtle, and steady. Unlike many humans he had encountered, who either panicked or acted impulsively, Lena's bravery was rooted in care. He could not help but respect it. Hours passed with the visitors watching silently. Then, in a sudden move, one of the aliens, tall and sharp-eyed, entered the cafe, followed by the others. Their tone was loud and aggressive, designed to draw attention. "You dare bring the Dragon Emperor into a human establishment?" the lead alien shouted. "Do you not know your place?" Patrons fell silent, watching the confrontation unfold. Auri hissed slightly, flapping its tiny wings in alarm. Kyle Thor stood, towering over the intruders, yet he did not raise his voice. His mere presence seemed to push back the aggressive energy. Lena stepped forward carefully, placing herself slightly between Auri and the intruders. "Please," she said softly but firmly. "There is no need for anger here. We are all safe. Auri is only a child." The aliens laughed mockingly. "You, a human, dare lecture us in the presence of the Emperor?" Kyle Thor's eyes glowed faintly. His deep voice rumbled through the cafe. "Enough." The intruders froze. Kyle Thor did not raise his wings or tail, did not roar. His calm, unwavering presence carried the authority of centuries. Even so, the humans in the cafe held their breath, fearing what could happen. But Lena did not step back. She held her ground, her voice steady. "We do not want conflict. There is nothing to gain by frightening a child or by threatening others here." Kyle Thor studied her carefully. The intruders expected fear, or at least submission. Instead, they saw courage wrapped in calm and care. For a moment, the Emperor considered letting Lena handle this entirely, confident that her steady heart might influence the outcome. The alien leader's face twisted with frustration. He was used to obedience through intimidation. Yet here was a human, small and fragile in appearance, standing firm without aggression. And the Dragon Emperor, though silent, radiated support for her stance. Auri chirped softly, stepping closer to Lena. Its tiny body quivered, but Lena reached down and stroked its scales gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm here. You're safe." The Emperor's eyes softened slightly. He had seen countless conflicts, observed countless strategies, but this display of human courage was rare. Not reckless bravery that risked life thoughtlessly, but quiet strength guided by care. The aliens, sensing the unspoken tension and seeing that Kyle Thor did not act aggressively, began to falter. Their plan to embarrass or intimidate Lena failed. The Emperor's silent judgment carried more weight than their words. Kyle Thor's voice finally cut through the silence. "You will leave," he said firmly. "This human and my child are under my protection. Any harm attempted here will not go unanswered." The group hesitated, then bowed slightly, realizing the futility of confrontation. Slowly they retreated, leaving the cafe in tense silence. Lena exhaled, her body relaxing slightly. Auri chirped happily, returning to her side. Kyle Thor looked at her, a faint admiration in his eyes. "You handled them well," he said quietly. Most humans would have panicked, yet you stood your ground with calm authority. Lena smiled softly. I only did what I thought was right. Auri is small and scared. He needed comfort, not anger. Kael'thor inclined his head. Your species has a strength that is unusual. Not in fire, not in claws, not in scales, but in courage and care. I am beginning to understand why. From that day forward, Kael'thor's visits to the cafe became more than routine. He sought to observe Lena, to learn how humans could act with bravery without relying on power. He noticed how she treated patrons with respect, how she guided Auri with patience, and how she handled challenges with quiet confidence. Lena's songs became a part of the Emperor's daily schedule. He would sometimes sit silently, listening as she hummed soft tunes while Auri played around her. Her voice carried warmth and reassurance, qualities the Emperor had seldom experienced in his long life. One evening, as the cafe's lights dimmed to signal closing, Lena hummed a melody that Auri loved. The small dragonling crawled into her lap, closing its eyes and making small, happy chirps. Kael'thor, seated in a corner, observed quietly. I find myself moved by this, he said softly, almost to himself. It is strange, yet comforting. Lena looked up, smiling. Music can do that, she said gently. It reaches feelings, not just minds. Even creatures like Auri, and even you, can feel it. The Emperor inclined his head thoughtfully. Perhaps humans are more capable than I imagined. Their strength is not obvious, yet it is powerful. Weeks passed, and the bond between Lena and Auri deepened. The small dragonling would often climb onto her shoulder, chirping as she hummed. Kael'thor, though still commanding and regal, began to show subtle signs of trust and appreciation for Lena. He asked more questions about human life, their ways of living, and their ways of solving problems without violence. One day, Kael'thor brought a question that surprised Lena. Tell me, he said quietly, how do humans remain kind and brave when danger comes, even when fear is present? Lena paused, thinking carefully. I think it is because humans know that fear is natural. We cannot avoid it, but we choose how to respond. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about acting rightly even when afraid. The Emperor remained silent for a moment, reflecting. I see. There is wisdom in your species, hidden beneath what appears to be weakness. Lena smiled gently. We are not perfect, but we try. Sometimes trying is enough. Auri chirped happily and crawled onto Lena's lap. Its golden eyes sparkled, and Kael'thor felt a rare stirring of warmth in his chest. The Emperor had ruled countless worlds, commanded loyalty through fear and respect, but this simple human, through song and gentle courage, had touched him in a way that no power or battle ever had. That evening, as the cafe quieted and patrons left, Lena cleaned the tables and prepared for closing. Auri snuggled in her arms, humming softly as Lena sang a gentle tune. Kael'thor stood near the exit, his gaze lingering on the human girl who had shown him a strength he had never truly understood. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. Your kind may be small in appearance, yet it holds a power that reaches hearts, even of dragons and emperors. Perhaps we have much to learn from you. Lena's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the distance between human and dragon emperor felt smaller. Auri chirped, its tiny wings twitching in delight. The emperor's heart, long hardened by duty and command, had begun to soften. And so, the bond between human and dragonling grew stronger, a quiet testament to the power of kindness, courage, and understanding. Lena's song had reached not just the ears of a dragonling, but the heart of a dragon emperor, and through it, A new understanding between species began to bloom. For Lena, it was just another day at work. For Kael'thor, it was the beginning of a revelation, that true strength was not in scales or fire, but in patience, care, and a brave heart willing to act for others. In the heart of Astra Station, amid the hustle of ships and chatter of aliens, a human girl, a tiny dragonling, and a mighty emperor had created something remarkable, a connection that promised a future where understanding and courage could bridge worlds. Astra Station glimmered under the soft light of distant stars, painting the metal corridors and domes with a quiet, golden glow. For Lena, another day at Star Corner had begun like any other, setting tables, preparing drinks, and greeting visitors from far-off planets. Yet, the cafe no longer felt ordinary. Every glance from a visitor seemed to linger on her and the small dragonling she cared for, Auri. Auri chirped happily as Lena entered, stretching its tiny wings in excitement. The dragonling's golden eyes sparkled, bright and full of life. Lena smiled, picking the small creature up gently. "Good morning, little one," she said softly. "Did you sleep well?" Auri chirped back, nuzzling her hand. Today felt different, Lena realized. There was a quiet tension in the air, a feeling that something important was about to happen. She did not know what, but she sensed it in the way the Dragon Emperor, Kael'thor, often observed her in silence from his corner. The cafe doors hissed open, and the familiar heavy rumble of Kael'thor's presence filled the room. The Emperor entered, carrying Auri in his arms, his amber eyes scanning the cafe with quiet authority. Yet today there was something more, a faint softness in his gaze whenever it met Lena's. "You are punctual, human," Kael'thor said quietly, his deep voice calm yet carrying weight. "And so is your dragonling." Lena smiled politely. "We try to keep things in order, Your Majesty. It helps everyone feel comfortable." Kael'thor's eyes narrowed slightly as he studied her. The Emperor had observed countless creatures in his long life, humans included, but Lena's quiet strength never ceased to intrigue him. She had faced fear without flinching, calmed a frightened dragonling, and yet had never demanded respect or recognition. Her courage was simple, subtle, and rare. Auri squirmed playfully in Kael'thor's arms, chirping softly, eager to be set down. Lena knelt and extended her hand. The dragonling leapt into her arms instantly, chirping in delight. Kael'thor's gaze lingered, and a soft rumble of amusement passed through him. "You have grown close," he said quietly. "It seems the dragonling prefers you over all else." Lena laughed softly. "I think he likes music more than anything. And maybe he likes someone who doesn't scare him." Kael'thor's lips twitched in something resembling a smile. For centuries he had been surrounded by fear, loyalty, and respect, never by warmth or care. Seeing Auri trust Lena so completely stirred an unfamiliar feeling within him. Today, Kael'thor had come not just as a ruler observing his child, but as an emperor who wanted to speak openly about what he had learned from humans, and from Lena. "Human," he said finally, seating himself across from her. "Your actions have changed something in me. I have ruled for centuries, yet I have not witnessed courage like yours in a long time. You act without fear, yet without recklessness. You care without expecting reward." Lena blushed lightly. I only do what I feel is right. I never thought it would mean anything to you, Your Majesty." Kael'thor leaned forward slightly, his amber eyes locking on hers. "It does, more than you realize. Your courage, your patience, it is rare among your kind, and yet it is your greatest strength." Lena's heart raced. She had never imagined hearing such praise from a dragon emperor. She looked at Auri, who chirped softly in agreement, nuzzling her shoulder. The emperor's voice grew quieter, almost hesitant. "I have seen armies, conquered worlds, and commanded loyalty through fear. Yet, nothing I have done has moved hearts as your simple acts of care have moved mine. Lena swallowed, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. I never wanted to move hearts, she said softly. I just wanted to help a child feel safe. Kyle Thor nodded slowly. And in doing so, you have taught me something invaluable. Strength is not in domination or fear. It is in care, courage, and the willingness to act rightly even when afraid. Aerie chirped happily, and Lena hummed softly, letting the Dragonling settle against her. The melody was gentle, calming, and full of warmth, a reflection of the human courage Kale Thor had come to admire. For a long while, neither spoke. Kale Thor watched quietly, contemplating what he had learned from humans, from Lena, and from the small Dragonling in her arms. He had ruled as an emperor for centuries, but today he realized that power alone was not enough. Understanding, kindness, and courage carried their own kind of strength, a strength he had rarely witnessed in his long life. Finally, Kale Thor spoke again, his tone deliberate. I want you to understand, Lena, that your actions have changed more than the heart of a Dragonling. They have touched me as well. You have reminded me that even in a universe ruled by power, warmth and courage can make a difference. Lena's eyes softened. I am honored, Your Majesty, but I am just a human. I do what I can with what I have. Kale Thor inclined his head slightly. And that is enough. More than enough. Perhaps it is humans like you who show us the truest form of strength. For Lena, hearing these words from a being so powerful, so revered, was overwhelming. Yet she remained humble. She glanced down at Aerie, who had begun softly humming along to her song, and smiled. You have given him comfort, she said softly. And I think you have shown me something, too. Kyle Thor's eyes softened, and for the first time, he allowed himself a subtle, rare smile. Perhaps we have both learned from one another. The days passed, and the Emperor's visits continued.